Well, hello. Welcome to Glendale Public Library's Treehouse Tales at GTV6. My name is Edgar Bullington. Most people call me Mr. B. I'm a children's librarian at our Grandview branch, and I have brought with me my special reading friend, Mindy Liberman, who is the manager at our Pacific Park branch. Hello, Mindy.
Hi.
And Mindy and I have made a wonderful discovery. Not only is it fun to read to each other, it's fun to read together. So we have brought a series of books that we've just had so much fun reading together. And the first one is actually based on a folk tale, isn't it, Mindy?
It is.
John and Anne Hassett took this wonderful old folk tale and turned it into a wonderful new folk tale.
All right. Once there were 3 silly sisters named Grub. They came in 3 sizes: small, medium, and extra large. One morning, the 3 silly sisters missed the bus, so they had to cross a bridge to get to school.
In a hole under the bridge hid Ugly Boy Bobby. Ugly Boy Bobby never went to school. He was the kind of boy who ate bugs, tossed stones at cats, and drank from puddles. The muddier, the better.
The smallest of the grubs skipped over the bridge on her way to school. Skippity, skip, skip.
"Who's that skipping on my bridge?" grunted a voice from the hole.
It is little me, squeaked the smallest of the 3. I am on my way to school to count to 10 on my toes.
"Not before I eat your lunch," grumbled Ugly Boy Bobby.
Oh, please do not, said the smallest girl. I have only 1 jelly donut. Wait for my sister, the medium-sized grub. She brings 6 jelly donuts for her lunch.
"Go, or I will stuff toads in your sneakers," grunted Ugly Boy Bobby.
The first sister ran to school as fast as her little-sized legs could go. Soon, the second sister skipped over the bridge on her way to school. Skippity, skip, skip.
"Who's that skipping on my bridge?" grunted the voice from the hole.
It is middle-sized me, said the second of the 3. I am on my way to school to spell bumblebee's bum.
"Not before I eat your lunch," growled Ugly Boy Bobby, gnashing his teeth.
Oh, please do not, said the second girl. I have only 6 jelly donuts. Wait for my sister, the biggest grub. She brings a dozen jelly donuts for her lunch.
"Go, or I'll tangle bats in your hair," grunted Ugly Boy Bobby.
The second sister ran to school as fast as her medium-sized legs could go. The biggest of the grubs skipped over the bridge. Skippity, skip, skip.
"Who's that skipping on my bridge?" grunted the voice.
It is big-sized me, said the biggest of the 3. I am on my way to school to see itsy-bitsy, teeny-tiny things under a microscope.
"Not before I eat your dozen jelly donuts," roared Ugly Boy Bobby, smacking his ugly boy lips. He hauled himself up onto the bridge. He stomped his ugly boy feet. He shook his ugly boy fists.
The extra-large girl only grinned. You may have my dozen jelly donuts, she said. But first, I will plant a dozen mushy kisses on your little boy nose. The biggest girl puckered up her extra-large lips.
Ugly Boy Bobby leaped from the bridge. He ran off to school as fast as his ugly boy's legs could go, and he never missed school again. Nowadays, Ugly Boy Bobby is called just Robert. He can count to 10 on his fingers. He can spell bumblebee's bum. He can see small things under a microscope, if he wears his glasses.
Spink, spank, spinach.
This story is finished. Is that fun? Good. Stand this up here so you can see it. What's next, Mindy?
Next we have a story called Terrific by John Agee.
Terrific.
Story and pictures by John Agee.
Much to his surprise, Eugene was the lucky winner of an all-expenses-paid trip to Bermuda. Terrific, he said. I'll probably get a really nasty sunburn. But on the way there, the ship ran into a terrible storm. Everyone was rescued, except for Eugene. Terrific, he said. I'll probably get devoured by sharks. Instead, Eugene washed up on a tiny island. Terrific, he said. Now I'll get eaten by cannibals. But when he looked around, nobody else was there.
Except for a parrot.
Terrific, said Eugene. What good's a parrot?
You'd be surprised, said the parrot.
Eugene was surprised. Are you stranded on this island too?
Afraid so, said the parrot. My wing is busted.
I guess we're both out of luck, said Eugene. Anything around here to eat?
Plenty of pomegranates, said the parrot.
Terrific. I hate pomegranates. Anything to drink?
Pomegranate juice, said the parrot.
Night was falling, so Eugene curled up under a palm tree and fell asleep.
When he woke up, the parrot was drawing a diagram in the sand.
What's that?
Our boat, said the parrot.
Terrific, said Eugene. Who's going to build it?
You are, said the parrot. This parrot seemed to know a lot about boats, so Eugene decided to give it a shot. First, the parrot told him how to put the hull together. Next, the parrot told him how to rig the rudder. Then the parrot told him how to connect the centerboard and secure the mast.
Terrific, said Eugene. I'm going to permanently damage my lower back. But in no time at all, he finished the boat.
Good job, said the parrot. Now all we need is a sail.
Terrific, said Eugene. And where do you expect to find a sail?
You're wearing it, said the parrot.
Terrific, said Eugene. This coat cost me $32. When the tide was right, Eugene grabbed a few pomegranates, and the two castaways shoved off. But soon the wind died down. For hours and hours, Eugene and the parrot drifted under the hot sun. All their pomegranates were gone. Terrific, said Eugene. We're going to die of thirst.
Wait a second, said the parrot. There's a ship.
Ship, said Eugene. What ship?
Look out, said the parrot.
Kabang! An old fishing trawler smashed into their boat, and Eugene and the parrot went splashing into the sea. Luckily, one of the fishermen spotted them and hauled them in.
Look, fellas, said the captain. It's Lenny.
I'm not Lenny, said Eugene.
Not you, said the captain. The parrot. We lost that dumb bird in a storm the other day.
Listen here, said Eugene. Your parrot isn't dumb. He saved my life. He told me how to build our boat.
You're nuts, said the captain. Lenny doesn't talk. He can't even say, Polly wants a cracker.
Of course he talks, said Eugene. Isn't that right, Lenny? Lenny? Lenny!
The captain grabbed the parrot. "Mister," he said, "you've been out in the sun too long."
It was true. Eugene was totally exhausted. So he found a place to lie down and immediately fell asleep. When Eugene woke up the next morning, he couldn't believe his eyes. The boat was docked in Bermuda.
"Okay, pal," said the captain. "This is where you get off. We're heading out."
"Well, where's Lenny?" said Eugene.
"Beats me. That darn bird has gone again."
When the boat pulled away, Eugene was the only one left on the pier.
Except for a parrot.
"Lenny," said Eugene, "your boat's leaving. What are you waiting for?"
"You." Lenny hopped onto Eugene's shoulder. And what do you think Eugene said?
What do you think he said, everybody?
Terrific.
Terrific. That was fun.
That
Mindy.
was good.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah. What's next?
Next.
Oh, next is Riley and Rose in the picture. And this is for all of you who've ever spent the day playing with your brother or sister, I think. Isn't that a good way to say it?
It's a brother-sister story.
Yeah, I think so. Susanna Gretz wrote the story and drew the pictures. It's raining hard. "Let's stay indoors and draw pictures," says Riley the dog.
"But we mustn't fight," says Rose the cat.
"Well, of course not," says Riley.
"Let's draw trees and bugs and carrot cake," says Rose.
"No way," says Riley. "I'm going to draw dots and lines and shapes." Riley draws lots of dots.
"Those are raindrops," says Rose.
"No," says Riley. "They're dots."
"No," says Rose. "They're raindrops, and this is a great big tree."
"That's not a tree," says Riley. "That's a mess."
"It's a tree in the rain," says Rose.
"Mess," says Riley. "But let's not fight." So now I'm going to draw circles, says Riley.
"Those are bugs," says Rose.
"No," says Riley. "They're circles."
"They're bugs," says Rose, "with legs and spots." Rose draws lots of bugs. Then she changes one bug into the sun and some other bugs into flowers. She adds some grassy lines, too.
Riley doesn't like Rose's garden. "Watch me draw a spiral," he says.
Rose draws a spiral, too, but she adds a stick. "Now it's a lollipop," she says. And she plants some spirally lollipops in her garden. "Which kind do you want, Riley?" she asks. "There's orange, lemon, raspberry ripple."
"Don't be ridiculous," says Riley. "Those aren't real lollipops."
"They are," says Rose. "But let's not fight."
Now Riley puts up a long sheet of paper. He draws a straight line all the way across it and a zigzag line on top.
"Those are tents," says Rose.
"No," says Riley. "They're triangles."
"No, tents," says Rose. She adds some flags.
"Those are little triangles," says Riley.
"No," says Rose. "They're flags. And it's dark out. And I'm in my cozy tent." She draws a long yellow tail peeking out from her tent.
"You're spoiling my triangles," says Riley.
"I'm not," says Rose.
And
they fight about it.
"You are."
"I'm not."
"You are."
"I'm not."
"You are."
"I'm not."
Oh,
dear.
How about one more shape? Says Riley. He draws a picture. He draws a square.
Rose tries to draw one too.
"That's not a square," says Riley. "It's a rectangle."
"No," says Rose. "It's a boat with big zigzag waves."
"Don't be ridiculous." But Riley stops. The truth is, he loves boats.
All aboard, Riley, says Rose.
Riley looks at Rose's boat. He gives it a big red triangular sail. There's a storm coming, says Riley.
With zigzag lightning, says Rose. They hop aboard.
Wow, says Riley.
Cat overboard, yells Rose.
Dog to the rescue, calls Riley. He tosses Rose an old bench.
And they paddled back to shore.
Let's dry off, says Riley.
They both have a good shake. The rain stopped, the sun's come out, and it's time for some cake. With sprinkles on top, says Rose.
They're just like dots, says Riley.
Well, okay, says Rose. Dots. But shall we eat it all up?
So they did.
Good.
Good. You know what? I think it's time to read one to you.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
I'd like to hear
All
one.
right. Well, I'm going to read you and our friends The Pink Refrigerator by Tim Egan. My refrigerator at home is white, but with all the magnets on it, it kind of looks
Could be pink.
Yeah, yeah. But this is a different kind of refrigerator. Dodsworth loved to do nothing. Now, this isn't to say he never did anything, because he did. But his motto was basically, try to do as little as possible. True, he did get up early each morning and ride to the junkyard. He'd find things that were still useful, like picture frames and dishes, and he'd bring them home to his little thrift shop, and he'd dust them off, and he'd put them on the shelves. He never sold much, but a little more than enough to get by. He'd spend the rest of the morning watching his favorite shows, and at about noon, he'd have a little bit of cheese, take a long nap. He'd have dinner at 5, then he'd close the shop, watch a few more shows, and fall asleep in his chair. And that was it. That was the life of Dodsworth. One Sunday morning, Dodsworth spotted an old refrigerator in the junkyard. It was pink and rusty. He walked right past it at first. Then he noticed a magnet on the front of it. It was a shiny brass globe, and it was holding a small piece of paper. Nice magnet, he said. He tried to pull it off, but it was stuck. He pulled harder. He said, must be rusted on. He got out his crowbar, and he used every ounce of energy he had, but the magnet didn't budge. Dodsworth looked closer at the note. It seemed too faded to read at first, but as he focused his eyes, he could just make out 2 words. Make pictures. Out of curiosity, he opened the refrigerator door, and on the shelves was a beautiful assortment of paints and brushes and a little red sketchbook. Well, what do you know, he said. Those should be worth something. He took them back to the store, and he placed them in the front window. Later that morning, a lady came into the store and asked, how much is that sketchbook in the window? Oh, I don't know, said Dodsworth. $5, I guess. As the lady shuffled through her purse, Dodsworth glanced over at the sketchbook. Actually, he blurted out, that sketchbook's not for sale. My mistake. Oh, well, said the lady. Thanks anyway. After the lady left, Dodsworth picked up the sketchbook. Don't know why I did that, he said. I haven't painted in years. But that afternoon, he made a picture. It was of the ocean, and even though he'd never actually seen the ocean in real life, It turned out to be pretty good. The next morning in the junkyard, he was passing by the refrigerator, and just for the heck of it, he pulled on the magnet. No go. He leaned in again to read the note. As the words slowly became visible, Dodsworth was astonished. The note now said, "Read more." "Whoa," he shouted. "That's a different note. How is that possible?" He tried to move the magnet again, but it was still stuck. He opened the door and saw that a whole volume of literary classics filled the shelves. "Oh, those things are worth a fortune," he said. "I don't know what's happening here, but wow, what a great refrigerator." He quickly went back to the shop and put the books in the window. A few minutes later, a fellow came by and asked, "Pardon me, sir, but how much for the classic books in your display?" "Oh," said Dodsworth, "let me think. They're quite rare." He hesitated. He looked at the books. "Actually, they've been sold already," he said. "Sorry." "Oh, well," said the fellow, "my loss. Good day." The fellow left, and Dodsworth took the books and sat down and started paging through them. They were filled with incredible stories. His favorite one was about a ship that sailed the seven seas. He read for the rest of the day and late into the night until he finally fell asleep. He woke up really early the next morning and rode over to the junkyard. This time, the note said, "Play music." Again, Dodsworth couldn't believe it. "This is the most amazing refrigerator in history," he whispered. He opened the door, and a shiny brass trumpet was sitting on the shelf. Dodsworth went back to the shop, but this time he didn't even put the trumpet in the window. He just started playing. Since he didn't know how to play, it didn't sound very good at first. But by nightfall, he was able to get a couple of good notes out. Dodsworth raced to the refrigerator the next morning. This time, the note said, "Learn to cook." Inside, there was a cookbook and a whole assortment of ingredients. He rode back to the shop and cooked all day and made one of the best meals he'd ever tasted. He was a gifted chef, and he'd never even known it. The next day, the note said, "Plant a garden." And inside was a tiny little tree and packets of seeds and little shovels and clippers. Bursting with new enthusiasm, Dodsworth went back and planted all afternoon. He had such a great time, he couldn't believe he'd never done that before. On Friday morning, Dodsworth rode confidently toward the refrigerator, eager to see what it had to offer. He leaned down and slowly read the note. It said, "Keep exploring." He opened the door, hoping to find something fabulous. But there was nothing there. "Hey!" he shouted. "What's going on?" He looked through all the drawers and in the freezer, but the refrigerator was empty. "That's not fair," he said. Now you're nothing but an old, broken-down refrigerator." Disappointed, he slammed the door. The magnet fell to the ground, and the note blew away. "No!" shouted Dodsworth as he ran through the junkyard, trying to catch the paper. But a breeze pushed the note over the fence and up into the sky until it disappeared. Dodsworth was stunned. His shoulders dropped. "I can't believe it," he said. "All my good fortune gone, just like that. Just when everything was getting started." He took the magnet back to his shop, sat down, started watching his shows again. all the while thinking about what that note said. Keep exploring. At 7:15 that night, in the middle of his favorite show, Dodsworth looked at the magnet. He suddenly felt a great sense of wonder about everything. He jumped out of his chair and filled his bicycle with all the things from the refrigerator. The paints and the brushes, the sketchbooks, the classic books, the trumpet, the cookbook, even the garden. He walked outside and, using the magnet, he hung a small sign on the door that read, "Went to find an ocean." He wrote back to the junkyard and over to the refrigerator. In the glow of the moon, it looked old and rusty and beautiful. Dodsworth smiled, tipped his hat, and pedaled down the street. Keep exploring.
Well, that was very nice.
Well,
I
thank
enjoyed
you.
that
Thank
very
you.
much.
And I was happy to read it to you. Thank
Good.
you very much.
Thank you.
Do we have one more in our bag?
I think our bag is empty, so
Was it?
time to say goodbye.
Well, okay. In that case, thank you all for joining us in the Treehouse and at Channel 6. Thank you, Mindy, very much for being my reading partner. That is so much fun.
It was fun. We'll have to do it again.
And we'll see you at our local libraries real soon.
Thank you.